Gaming news update. The videos that I like making but inevitably become worthless after something actually happens. But Arkham Trilogy, the Batman Arkham Trilogy, is actually coming to the Nintendo Switch. Before I criticize this in a true peak gamer form, I can't be happy with anything, I want to say I'm going to buy this. And Jill's probably looking at me like, what the hell, why are you going to buy this? We already have these games on PC and stuff. Here's why I'm going to buy this game. This tells WB that I'm interested in this. Something that really frustrated me, and I'm not going to make this video about the DCEU, okay? I have a video either later this week or early next week or this weekend or something. I'm going to talk about WB Studios, the movie side of things, and how annoyed I am. But something that really frustrates me is when I like something and I enjoy something and I think it's actually fun and could be interesting and good, or at least be good in the future, and people don't support it. It's totally their right to not support it, but like recently I saw Across the Spider-Verse and it's doing excellent. I'm really happy with that. But I recently saw The Flash, and while that movie has a lot of problems, I saw Michael Keaton return as Batman. I loved it. I saw Sasha, I believe the way to say her name is Kaye, but I have to actually look it up, play Supergirl, and I thought she was amazing. By the way, if you know how to say her name correctly and you want to tell me in the comments down below, I'm actually asking you, because that does help me out if you could tell me how to pronounce it correctly, because I looked it up on the internet. There's like 5 different pronunciations. She played Supergirl, and I thought, well, you know what? I would love to see more of these characters. I'd love to see more. Oh, it looks like WB's going a different direction. I probably never will. And that frustrated me. That's something I'm going to talk about fully in another video. So the reason I want to support the Arkham Trilogy on Switch is because I want to show this company that people still care about Arkham games. People still care about these Batman games. People want to see more if you do them well and if you do them respectfully. Roger Craig Smith is right there. I understand completely. I'm not trivializing Kevin Conroy's passing in any way. It's actually heartbreaking to me. Genuinely, sometimes I think about it and cry a little because I'm just that guy, which is weird probably, but I do. But when it comes down to it, there are avenues to follow if you want to continue the Arkham storylines, or if you want to go a different direction in universe with Superman or any of these other characters. There are a lot of avenues that could be followed respectfully. But something that really frustrates me, despite wanting to support this game, is the fact that Arkham Origins continues to be ignored. And I'm sure that there could be some kind of PR way to spin this. Like, I'm sure that WB could probably spin this and say, well, we put the Kevin games in here. You know, we put, obviously, Arkham Asylum, City, and Night in here. Those are his games. I guess you could spin it that way, sure. I doubt that they would, because that would probably seem a little bit like profiting off of a passing. Not that any company is above doing that, we clearly know, but you could spin it that way. And I have seen a lot of people say, even a couple of friends of mine online have said, well, Jay, that was a game from WB Games Montreal, why would that be in here? Well, because it's not necessarily Rocksteady that makes these decisions. You guys have to remember that there is a hierarchy of power somewhere in the world. Dwayne Johnson just shot up erect in his seat at 500%, but not that hierarchy from Black Adam. We're talking about video game development. You have developers, right? They work at a development studio. Sometimes that studio is at a development company. Sometimes that company is just a studio. It's kind of complicated because you can have studios that split. You can have studios that have multiple teams working on different things, but let's just simplify it. At the studio level, you have the developers, but above them at the publishing studio level, or the publisher level, I guess would be the better way to say it, you have the people who actually own that thing and are making decisions downward, saying, hey, you guys, you should probably work on this. This is me from the future just throwing in here. I feel like I did a bad job on one thing in my explanation. Usually the publishers are not necessarily the rights holders. It goes basically like a huge company is the rights holders. Then you can have a publisher. Then you can have the studios under them. There are more levels technically if you want to really get into it. And sometimes the publisher can be the rights holder. But essentially when it comes down to it, WB Games is the publisher, but obviously WB itself owns that, but WB is owned with the, Discovery merger, right? So I'm sure that makes sense to you, but I wanted to clarify that before I got the "but actually" guy in the comment, because yes, I do know that. I'm just very tired. It's actually 5 a.m. and my sleep schedule is weird, so let's continue. A lot of the times when it comes to companies like Rocksteady or even WB Games Montreal, in my opinion, they've gotten a lot of leeway to do mostly what they want within reason. I think Gotham Knights is a very clear example of that. I don't, despite anyone's opinions on the game, mine being very mixed, I don't think that game would have been greenlit if it was just WB Games themselves with the iron thumb pushing down on Montreal. I think they would have pushed them to make something that for sure would have been super profitable and something they could have, made a ton of money on and gotten out there a lot quicker than they did. But the publisher is often the ones actually making these decisions as to what to include in a port, what to actually port to different things, where should we move this thing to make money off of it. I mean, it's not like the original developers of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic sat down and they were all the ones who had to make it run on iPad, when they were going to start porting that thing to mobile. There's always different people working on these ports, different studios, different companies that come in for a game development studio or for a publisher. The reason I wanted to address that is because I've seen these responses of, well, it's to respect Kevin. One, I don't think it is. Two, I think that would be weird to be like, this is a game because of him, because that would kind of come off like selling on the back of his passing. And two, I've seen people say, well, it's because it's not a Rocksteady game. Sure, but it was still a canon Arkham game. I mean, Rocksteady referenced it several times in Arkham Knight. There are a lot of references. In fact, I would actually, speaking of that, maybe in the future I should make a video about all the references to Arkham Origins that I can find in Arkham Knight. That would be fun. These games are always fun to dive into. But I think it's kind of sad because I talked recently about how Arkham Origins is always ignored, and this is just another example of it. The Arkham Trilogy is coming, but not Origins, and not even Blackgate either. I know that one's probably easier to ignore, being more of like a 2.5D side-scrolling weird game, but it still did add on to the story of Arkham in some ways. There was interesting stuff with, obviously, Catwoman, and I'm just kind of confused why they continue to go in this direction. I've seen a lot of copium, and it's positive copium, about how, well, maybe they're just saving a remaster of Arkham Origins. Maybe, but at this point, it is becoming a little comical how much of the, I don't know if the term redheaded stepchild is still politically correct, but like the black sheep this thing is, how this thing gets pushed to the side. I still maintain that there's a lot of weird feelings around this game. It seemed to me like Rocksteady never had any hard feelings around this game. In fact, they kind of bent over backwards to incorporate the game into the canon of Arkham Knight and actually make it make sense with references from Firefly, references to other characters as well, like Copperhead. So I don't really think it was ever Rocksteady, but something around WB Games, and especially WB Games Montreal, with this game has always sat weird. I do have a whole video talking about my personal opinion in all my time covering these games, talking to people, playing these games, things like that, why I think that they ignored it, which is in a separate video I will link in the description. It always seemed like it was very stressful for the development team that was on it, but I don't really understand why that would affect a port now. You don't necessarily need those people to come back and stick their neck out to get Origins running on Switch. And you might say, well, how would Origins run on Switch anyway? I mean, it's, an advanced game, but it's like if you can get Arkham Knight running on Switch, Origins certainly can. I'm sure it would have its multiplayer component cut out, like the Assassin's Creed games did with the Ezio trilogy and stuff, but I'm sure that you could get it running. Games like Nier Automata, by the way, and even The Witcher 3 actually ran pretty well on the Switch. I'm not saying that I would prefer to go to those platforms to play it, not really for me. I have a gaming PC, a Switch, a PS5, and an Xbox Series X. Not a humble brag, it's just I kind of have access to these on different platforms. But if you have access to those games on Switch, they run really well. So I'm not necessarily saying that I think Arkham Knight's going to run like trash on here or anything like that. I do think it's interesting to me that the footage that they showed in their trailer looked much, much more like the original release of these games in terms of City and Asylum versus Return to Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. And I'm actually glad about that because those versions of the game, in my opinion, looked a lot better. There are certain things that I'm sure you can tweak, and one of the biggest things people always show as a difference is like how Joker's hair color was changed slightly in Arkham City to match Arkham Origins a little more, stuff like that. But the like very, very short gameplay snippet that we were shown looked a lot more like the original releases of these games. I like those original releases more for their graphics. I think that the remasters are clearer on your television if you're playing on PS4, PS5, or Xbox One or any of that. But I think that the original games look better if you're playing them in HD on your computer, on your actual PC. So when you actually remove the technical limitations of the consoles, I think the original graphics looked better. They had a better art style, better coloring, and a lot of better textures even too than Return to Arkham did. So I'm happy to see that. This is why I want to say there are a lot of things that I think look good about this. There are a lot of reasons that I think people could support this, and there are reasons why I'm going to buy it, believe it or not, despite owning all these games. But I don't really understand the constant push to just kind of give Origins the finger. If you were going to release a remaster of Arkham Origins, or a remake, or any of that, I think that that kind of thing would have been something that probably should have been announced either before or alongside this port. I also understand that maybe you don't want to because it's Nintendo Direct and it's the Switch. Maybe that wouldn't work on the Switch, I don't know. But for me, it's a little bit of a weird look to just constantly do this. It's also bizarre to me that now we're seeing a Konami that is more keen to preserve their Metal Gear games from the past and make those available on current consoles than WB Games is willing to with the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game Batman Arkham Origins. Like, isn't that weird? Konami, who ignored their games for years and years to focus on pachinko and all this other garbage that annoyed the entire gaming sphere, had a lot of fallout with Hideo Kojima and just really tarnished the name around Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hills and all these things with, you know, the PT release and what that was going to be. That company's looking better, like with their preservation tactics around their games than WB is with Arkham Origins. I just think it's funny. I just wanted that to sink in for a second. I'm not saying Konami's like a saint here, but it just kind of made me laugh to see Metal Gear Solid 2 and 1 and 3, you know, popping up on the Switch and on the PlayStation and Xbox and all this. But like, we can't get Arkham Origins. It's great. Fantastic. No worries. It's one of my favorite stories in the whole franchise. I think it has some of the best boss fights, great atmosphere, but no worries. It's okay. We didn't want it anyway, right? We didn't want that anyway. Maybe if we tell WB we don't want it, maybe they'll finally give it to us. You know what else? I don't want Sasha's Supergirl to return. I certainly don't think she's drop dead gorgeous. I don't want Michael Keaton Batman back. I don't want any of that, and I don't want good movies or good games anymore. See, this is what we have to do with WB. We have to make them think we don't want it, kind of like you do with your parents, where it's like, well, I didn't want ice cream anyway when you're getting punished, and then maybe you'll get ice cream later. You know, that's kind of what you got to do, is guilt them. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I just found it funny. It's not really a huge deal. Like, are we expecting it to be released on anything? No. I mean, at this point, like, you know, in 50 years, it'll be like, Arkham Origins, I was there when Arkham Origins came out, and they'll be leading me back into the home like, okay, grandpa, like, your time is up, okay? Like, just die already. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more content. I appreciate you all very, very much. We actually played through Batman Arkham Origins over on our Let's Play channel. We were not very good at it, but we did play through it. Currently playing through Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, finishing up Gotham Knights, and also starting Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper. So a lot of stuff going on there, along with continued Elden Ring parts that will last until the end of time. Will Elden Ring finish first? Or will Arkham Origins be re-released first? Well, you decide. That's all in the description down below. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.